I'm Scott Fishman.
I'm John Dwoskin.
And this is the 7-Minute Salesman.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Fish, good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We got a good show, don't we?
I think we have a great show. And what's unbelievable to me is that this is the 7th show in our 7th season of the 7-Minute Sales Minute.
That's right.
It was very difficult to enunciate. And then we're starting season 8, which is crazy, but exciting. Yeah.
It's the season finale, folks. No cliffhangers on this one.
Right. Something will happen today that will change your life forever.
This week on Melrose Place.
Da, 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 da.
So, folks, we've listened to the community, and we have a little bit of a throwback episode. One of our very first episodes we ever did, we talked about being assumptive. We actually talked about the greatest salesman in the world, being that kid that answers a phone that says, pick up or delivery when you order a pizza, because the most assumptive man in the world, kind of like the most interesting man in the world, which I don't know. Do you watch television that much? Do you know that commercial, the most interesting man in the world?
Yeah, but I think the most interesting man in the world was more interesting. The other guy was the more interesting man in the world.
Yeah. And now the old guy is like, he's something else. He's like working for another company that totally scooped him up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. The new guy isn't as interesting as the old guy.
The old guy was the hottest free agent on the market. So, okay, throwback episode. We're talking about being assumptive here, being the most assumptive person you can be when making a sale. And John, I'm kind of blown away all the time when I think about this, but we go in sometimes to a sales call, a sales presentation, almost assuming that we're defeated sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy. And, as we were chatting about this quickly before we hopped on this call, it got me really thinking how crazy it is when, the goal of a salesperson is either to, get a phone call from a potential client or prospect or make that call. But then when that person actually answers the phone or they hear them speaking, they freeze and make all of these assumptions that, that person doesn't want to buy from them.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It harkens back, and we talked about it before, but it harkens back kind of to the imposter syndrome, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, am I good enough to do this? Is my product good enough? Like, why are they even talking to me? I don't even get it. I don't understand. But if they're on the phone with you, or you're in front of them, or they're in your store, I mean, they're there for a reason, right?
Right. I want to, and I don't know if I've talked about this story on the show before, the Axeman. Have I ever talked about the Axeman?
No.
Okay. And I use it a lot of times as a story that when I'm with my clients, but it's a story about I can't remember the comedian. It'll come to me, but it was a joke that he used to tell. And Danny Thomas back in the day. Anyway, a guy's driving down a road. It may not be exactly right, but a guy's driving down a dark road and he hits a tree and he needs to chop down the tree in order to get his car out of the bank. And he's on a road and he only sees one house about a mile away with a light on. So he says to himself, I'll get out of my car. I'll walk to that house. I'll ask him for an axe. I'll come back here. I'll chop down my tree and then boom, I'm on my way. And so he starts walking towards the house, and he starts talking to himself. I wonder if they even have an axe. And then he keeps on walking a little bit more, and he goes, I wonder even if they have an axe, if they'll let me borrow the axe. And then he starts walking a little bit more, and he said, I really need this axe. I'm hoping that they let me borrow the axe. And then he starts walking, and as he gets closer to the house, he starts thinking to himself, what if they don't let me borrow the axe? I bet they won't let me borrow the axe. You know what? I really need this axe. I feel like they're not going to let me borrow it. He gets to the front door. He knocks on the door. They open up the door, and he says to the guy, keep your fucking axe. Because he worked himself up so much that the guy wasn't going to let him borrow the axe, that he just, let the guy have it before he even gave the guy a chance to talk.
John, that's an amazing story. I love that joke. It literally, we could end right here. Like, thank you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. But no, I really think that it tells the tale of exactly what we're talking about, is that as salespeople, we're going in and we're up to the challenge. We want to sell, but sometimes people just don't need to be sold. They're there already. They want your product. They want to give you the axe. You know, all you have to do is ask sometimes.
Yeah. And, I think let's talk about where salespeople get stuck, because I think there's different levels that they get stuck. Sometimes they get stuck right at the initial call, and they tell someone they have that mindset that, keep your fucking axe right off the bat. But I find like that it's that third, fourth ask that they have to bring to the table, a question that they need to bring to the table. And I think that's a good topic, talking in questions and getting over that hump and transitioning that bridge to get them closer to a sale.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, because if they're engaged with you, so far it's a yes. And that's the whole thing. It's always a yes until it's a no. And what we're doing a lot of times in our sales positions is we're assuming the no and trying to turn the no into a yes. But the yes is already there. All we have to do is keep it as a yes and keep it from getting flipped into a no. So you're right. Asking the right questions, engaging them, getting them to give you the problem. Sales a lot of times, or most of the time, or pretty much all the time, is giving them a solution to a problem, right? So figuring out what their actual problem is and solving it for them.
Right. But let's dive into that, because I think what you just said is key. Always a yes before a no. I mean, I'm going to just highlight a couple of things you said, but they're on the phone. They're talking to you. They're taking busy time out of their busy day to actually communicate with you. And it's our responsibility as a salesperson not to blow it. We may not close the sale in that moment, but to evolve the relationship. So let's give some tips on how to do that.
Well, I mean, asking questions first and foremost is huge. Yeah. Like, you're on the phone with me, John. Why are you on the phone with me? I mean, plain and simple, right? Like, right. You're here for a reason. So what is the reason? You obviously, if I'm selling axes, tell me why you need an axe.
Right. But and I think also listening. I think a lot of salespeople are just really need to evolve their listening skills. I mean, because when you and I talk about loosely just now, ask great questions, but asking great questions don't mean that you have 10 questions in front of you and you're going to methodically ask each question. If you need a launch question or some transition questions, that's one thing, but the best questions come from whatever the person you're talking to just said.
Yes, follow up and ask, it's when in doubt, just ask why. And we've talked about that before, be a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
But, I'm here because my car's in a ditch. Okay, well, why do you need the axe to get your car out of the ditch? Because I still don't understand. Okay, then I need the axe to chop down the tree. Holy cow, we have a problem.
Right.
I have just the axe you need.
Yes.
Come with me.
Fundamentally, that was a great way that you articulated that. And I'm going to articulate what I think many salespeople do. Hey, my car is in a ditch and I need an axe. Do you like Chinese food? It's that off of like the disconnect that, and once the person you're talking about, because I loved what you said, the person comes on the phone, it's always a yes before a no. The minute you ask a question that isn't consistent with them thinking that you have their back, you have their best interest, you're listening to what they have to say, so you can begin to discover and uncover what their true needs are, you disqualify yourself by asking a bad question or a question that just doesn't even make any sense.
Right. You're on a road. You're on a path. If you think about it, you're going from point A to point B. The second you ask that, Chinese food style question, which I think is great because it's so true. We hear it all the time. But the second you ask that question, you're totally veering off path. And you're either making it, you're elongating the time of the sale to get from point A to point B, or you're literally never going to get to point B because you took that left turn where there wasn't even a road, and it's so obvious. And I hear it happen all the time in my industry. We'll ask a question that is totally irrelevant, totally off kilter, and sometimes even almost downright offensive when we're not listening. You might be talking to a lady who says, yes, my husband just passed, and I need to refinance my house for this reason. And then 20 minutes later, we ask, so will your husband be on the refinance with you? And the lady's like, no, I told you my husband just passed.
Right.
We're bringing that up like, holy cow, like, let me just kick you right in the nuts right here. Like,
Right.
this doesn't make any sense.
Right. That is so true. Yeah. You got to listen. You got to ask great questions, and you got to be assumptive and confident and conviction. I think that conviction without being arrogant or an asshole.
Right.
And I think that comes with the fundamental things that we've been talking about today, which is, just take ownership and be prepared. I think we should spend a couple minutes talking about getting prepared for the call, building your muscles, your muscle memory to actually do what we're talking about doing. It takes work. It takes practice. It takes preparation. So I have some thoughts on that as my dog is barking in the background.
This is real life, folks.
It's real life. This is it. Any thoughts on that, Fish?
Yeah, we've talked about being prepared before, and it's not that difficult at this point in the game with everything we know about the internet and everything we have at our fingertips. You can find out about your prospects, whether it be the prospective company, whether it be the prospective individual client. You can find out a lot about them on your own before even speaking with them. But one of the things I like to do when I set an appointment is I get a few cursory questions out of the way. What is your ultimate goal? Why? And, how long do you plan on using this product for? Right. Those 3 simple questions, they'll answer it, and it might just be real superfluous. Gosh, that doesn't happen that often, folks. Tongue twister.
I don't think I've ever heard you pronounce. I mean, I pronounce words wrong all the time, but I don't think in the 30-some years I've known you, I've ever heard you say a word wrong.
John, I'm usually very mellifluous, but this superfluous, sometimes the answers are just there. It's almost like a smoke screen. Just they're not paying attention to you when they answer the question, but at least you can do some research based on that. And then when you start off, you can say, based on what you told me, I put together a couple things. We could totally fine tune this. We could totally tweak this. But right off the bat, I wanted to come in and not just give you the generic offer, the generic options. I wanted to give you something that was at least tailored to you.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And just to add on to that, I would say have a daily ritual where you are understanding who your client is, so you know what questions to ask. Taking 5, 10, maybe more minutes to take some executive time and look at your day, and take some time, 15 minutes a day, and just role play with somebody. Right? Just practice a little bit. Even if you don't have anybody, role play in your car with yourself. I do it all the time. Yeah,
perfect practice makes perfect sale.
Yeah.
So something I was actually thinking about a little bit here is, when we talk about the being assumptive and we're assuming the yes versus assuming it's a no, one of the things that we've always talked about is people don't want to be sold. That's why we have this stink on us sometimes as salespeople, like because we come off as salesy. People don't want to have someone, hey, what's it going to take to get you into this Cadillac today? Like people don't want that, right? So when we are assuming the no, we're automatically going into salesman mode right there. Because we're assuming no, we're trying to convince them all the reasons why they have to work with us, how great we are, if they don't do this, the world's going to end, and everything's going to change next week, and everything has to be signed by Friday. The world's not going to end. There is no rush like that, and they can feel that. They could feel the salesiness coming out. When we're assuming it's a yes, all we're doing is giving them the advice they need, leading them to the finish line of the sale.
Right. Telling is not selling.
That's right.
Well said, Fish. I mean, I think you're spot on, and I think we can leave it right there for today. I mean, I think there's a lot of different paths we could go down here and evolve, but let's leave that for season 8 because I think we gave a ton of tools and a ton of wisdom for people to grow their game today.
That's great, John. And I just want to leave everyone with this. At the end of season 7, it's been great. Season 8 is going to be even better. And John, to you, I say, keep your fucking axe.
Thanks, Fish. You too. And thanks to everybody who takes time to listen to the 7-Minute Sales Minute. Fish and I love doing it. And keep listening and keep giving us feedback. And we appreciate your time And we hope that you are taking what you're learning and growing your business.
Seacrest out.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Now, no excuses. It's time to put everything you listen to into action. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop listening and doing nothing with this information. Take this information, implement it into your day, kick some ass, grow your business, grow your sales, make more money, have more fun, have a better life, period, the end.
What he said.